Welcome in, everybody, to this deep dive. And we're going to be looking at
Back at
Robert
it.
Greene's 48 Laws of Power.
Yes.
We're so excited.
Super fascinating stuff.
And we've got some excerpts from the book itself
Yes.
and also some examples from history and how it's played out.
Yeah, I've got some fun ones.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's just jump into it.
Let's do it.
So Greene kicks things off with this Law 1, you never outshine the master.
Okay.
And it's all about sort of managing up, right?
Yeah.
And those in positions of authority. And it's super insightful.
Yeah.
I think even for us today, you know.
Absolutely.
And he uses this story of Galileo and the Medici family to illustrate this point.
Really interesting.
Yeah. So the Medici family were super powerful in Renaissance Italy.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, what's interesting is Galileo kind of knew that the path to success wasn't just, scientific achievement. He was really strategic about dedicating his work to the Medicis. And actually kind of linking his discoveries about, cosmic forces and all that to their name to make them look good.
So it was kind of like a PR move for him.
Exactly. Yeah, he understood the psychology of power.
Right.
Like by making the Medicis look good, he secured their patronage.
That makes a lot of sense. And this definitely applies to today, I think.
Of course.
Like, I feel like everyone's had to navigate a tricky boss or two
yeah, for sure.
in their careers.
Yeah, this law kind of gives us this framework for understanding those dynamics. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not about being a yes man or brown nosing or anything.
Right.
It's about understanding the motivations and the insecurities of those in power.
Yeah.
And knowing how to manage up effectively.
It's being strategic.
Totally
Yeah.
strategic.
Yeah.
And understanding the psychology of the
Exactly.
people you're working with.
Let's move on to Law 5.
Okay.
So much depends on reputation. Guard it with your life.
Oh, that's a good one.
And this is so relevant
Just today, right?
with social media
Yeah.
and just the constant scrutiny we're all under.
Oh, yeah, I totally agree. Greene says your reputation is a form of power in itself.
Yeah.
And I think he's right. A strong reputation can totally intimidate rivals. It can win you allies.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, like you said, in the age of social media,
It's fragile.
it can be so fragile, so easily damaged.
Yeah. And to illustrate this, Greene shares a couple of anecdotes.
Okay.
The first one is about this Chinese strategist, Chuko Liang,
Okay.
known as the Sleeping Dragon.
Oh, I like that.
He had this reputation for being super cunning and resourceful.
Mm-hmm.
And during this one particular battle, his forces were totally outnumbered
Oh, no.
by this enemy general, Sima Yi.
Oh.
And Liang came up with this risky plan
Okay.
to make it seem like his city was totally undefended.
Oh, wow.
And Sima Yi, knowing Liang's reputation for strategic brilliance, he fell for it
Oh, wow.
and retreated.
Wow, that's a great example of how reputation alone can be such a deterrent.
Yeah.
Sima Yi knew the empty city trick, but the fear was too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the fear of what Liang might do
Right.
outweighed his desire to attack.
He won without even fighting.
Exactly.
Okay, so the second anecdote is about P.T. Barnum.
Okay.
Now, he knew a thing or two,
The showman.
yeah, about building a successful brand,
Mm-hmm.
but he also understood how to damage a competitor's reputation.
Interesting.
Yeah. So Greene describes how Barnum targeted Peale's Museum,
Uh-huh.
which was a rival attraction, and it eventually led to his downfall.
Wow.
Yeah, he was such a master of public perception.
Totally playing the PR game.
Yeah.
And takes us to this crucial point. Reputation is a double-edged sword.
Totally.
It can be carefully cultivated and used to your advantage, but especially today, it can be tarnished so quickly.
Yeah, so we all got to be really vigilant
Yeah.
about protecting our online presence
Absolutely.
and how we're perceived.
For sure.
Okay, let's move on to Law 9, win through your actions, never through argument.
Oh, I like that one.
This one I love because I would much rather prove myself through my work than have to,
Right.
argue about it.
Yeah. Greene makes this great argument for the power of action
Yeah.
over words. You might win an argument intellectually, but it often breeds resentment.
Right.
And that can work against you.
Totally.
He's got a couple of really good stories about this. The first one is about this loyal vizier who's falsely accused of treachery.
Oh, geez.
And instead of arguing his innocence, he comes up with this plan
Okay.
to publicly demonstrate his loyalty.
Oh, wow. So he's put his money where his mouth is.
Exactly. And it totally worked.
Good for him.
The Sultan saw right through the accusations
Yeah.
and recognized his loyalty.
Okay, so the second story is about Michelangelo.
Oh, yeah.
So he was competing for the commission to create the David statue.
Mm-hmm.
And he could have, spent weeks pitching his ideas, arguing his case.
Right.
But he didn't.
What did he do?
So the block of marble that was intended for the David had been mishandled by another artist.
Oh, no.
And Michelangelo saw an opportunity, and he subtly demonstrated his skill by, like, discovering a figure within this, like, flawed marble.
Wow.
So that kind of positioned him as the only one who could do it.
Oh, that's so smart.
Yeah.
He let his talent speak for itself.
Yeah. And I think this law offers really good advice.
Yeah.
Especially in a professional setting.
For sure.
You know, instead of getting caught up in arguments, just take action that demonstrate your value.
Just about showing, not telling.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, what's next?
Okay, Law 17. Keep others in suspended terror. Cultivate an air of unpredictability.
Okay, that sounds a little intimidating.
It does.
Yeah.
But when you delve into it, it's really about the psychological impact of unpredictability.
Yeah.
And he uses the example of Genghis Khan, who, you know, conquered huge parts of Asia. He was notorious for being unpredictable with his tactics. He would deliberately spread misinformation and launch surprise attacks.
So his enemies could never figure him out.
Yeah, they were always trying to anticipate his next move.
Right.
They were always a step behind.
So it created this climate of fear and uncertainty that paralyzed them.
Totally. So it was like psychological warfare.
Totally.
It was playing with their minds and leading to their downfall.
And Green also talks about this guy, Lope de Aguirre.
Yeah.
He was a Spanish conquistador called the Wrath of God.
Oh, that's not a good sign.
Yeah, he was known for his brutality and really unpredictable behavior. His reputation for cruelty actually, like, preceded him.
Oh, wow.
And instilled fear in those who were hundreds of leagues away.
So he wielded fear like a weapon.
He did.
So are you saying a little unpredictability can be a good thing?
I mean, in measured doses?
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
A little bit of mystery and unpredictability can keep people on their toes.
Right.
Make you seem more interesting, more dynamic.
But too much.
But yeah, too much. You don't want to be seen as erratic or unreliable.
Right. You got to find that sweet spot.
Exactly.
Okay, let's dive into Law 20. Do not commit to anyone.
Ooh, that's a spicy one.
This one feels a little ruthless.
I mean, it is about maintaining your independence, right?
Yeah.
And avoiding those entanglements that might limit you.
So staying neutral.
In a sense, yeah.
Okay.
He uses the example of Otto von Bismarck, who was the architect of German unification.
Right.
So Bismarck was a master at navigating this complex political landscape of 19th century Europe.
Yeah.
And he deliberately kept his true intentions hidden.
Oh.
And often played different factions against each other.
Oh, so he's playing 3D chess.
Totally. A master strategist.
Wow.
But it's important to understand this law isn't advocating for disloyalty or being heartless.
Right.
It's recognizing that unwavering loyalty can sometimes blind you to opportunities.
Okay, so it's being strategic about your alliances.
Exactly.
And keeping your options open. But this next one sounds really juicy. Law 21. Play a sucker to catch a sucker. Seem dumber than your mark.
Woo! The art of deception.
Okay, tell me more.
So Green says, by appearing less intelligent than your target, you disarm their suspicions and you create this false sense of superiority.
Right.
And he uses this example of Asbury Harpending, who cooked up this super elaborate con involving a fake gold mine.
So it's like the classic, too good to be true.
Totally.
Right.
They created this whole illusion. They planted fake evidence.
Oh, wow.
And then they even played the part of bumbling prospectors.
Oh, so they really sold it.
Yeah, they drew in all these wealthy investors.
And those investors thought they were the smart ones.
Exactly. That's the whole point.
Oh, yeah.
Their egos led them right into the trap.
Wow.
And then there's this guy, Count Victor Lustig, a con man so skilled at playing the fool, he almost sold the Eiffel Tower.
No way.
Twice.
The Eiffel Tower.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
He understood that people fall for their own vanity.
He would flatter his victims, making them feel smarter than him.
Right.
Which made them more susceptible to his schemes.
So they outsmarted themselves.
Yeah, in a way, I think this law just reminds us to never underestimate your opponent.
Yeah.
Appearances can be deceiving and intelligence can take many forms.
Yeah.
Always question your assumptions, do your due diligence.
Yeah, especially in a world where scams are so prevalent.
Absolutely. And for another one.
Yes.
Law 23. Concentrate your forces.
Okay.
Green uses the analogy of mining here.
Okay.
It's more effective to find a rich vein and mine it deeply
Right.
than to go from one shallow mine to another.
Right, so it's about focus.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about identifying where you can have the biggest impact and going all in.
Right.
He uses the Rothschild banking dynasty as an example. So the founder mayor, Amschel Rothschild, strategically placed each of his sons in a key financial center.
Oh, wow.
Across Europe.
Oh.
So instead of spreading themselves thin,
Right.
they concentrated their efforts on these specific regions, building deep connections,
Right.
and amassed so much wealth and influence.
So it's like jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah.
It's better to master one thing
That's a great way to put it.
than to be mediocre at a lot of things.
I love that. I think this law applies to all of us no matter what our goals are.
Yeah.
Whether you're building a career or a business or just trying to improve a skill,
Right.
identify that rich mine and invest wisely. Don't spread yourself too thin.
Yeah. Okay, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Okay.
I want to explore one more law that I think is crucial for building and maintaining power.
Okay.
Law 43. Work on the hearts and minds of others.
Ooh, seduction over coercion.
Yeah. What makes this one so
Well,
important?
he's basically saying that, seduction is a much more effective form of influence
Right.
than coercion.
So it's persuasion versus brute force.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it requires this deep understanding of human psychology, knowing what motivates people, what they fear, what they value.
Yeah.
And he shares this story about this guy, Daisen Nobuhisa,
Okay.
who masterfully manipulates a friend into exchanging a valuable IOU for a painting.
So he used like psychological tactics
He did.
instead of like threats.
Yeah, he played on his friend's vanity and desires,
Right.
leading him down a path that ultimately benefited.
That's some skillful manipulation.
It is.
Yeah.
But it highlights the importance of emotional intelligence in wielding power,
Yeah.
being able to read people, understand their motivations, and tailor your approach accordingly
Right.
can be incredibly persuasive.
It's about building genuine connections.
Yeah.
And creating win-win scenarios.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, that was quite a journey through the first batch.
It was.
Of Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power.
Yeah.
We had covered some pretty insightful and maybe even controversial
A little bit.
strategies for understanding power.
For sure.
But don't worry, we're just getting started.
We'll be back.
Welcome back to part 2 of our deep dive.
Round 2.
Into Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power.
Let's do it.
So last time we were talking about winning hearts and minds.
Yes.
Where do we go from here?
Well, let's talk about adaptability.
Okay.
Specifically, Law 48, assume formlessness.
Okay.
Greene actually takes inspiration from Bruce Lee's philosophy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that "be like water, my friend" quote.
Yeah, I've heard that one.
Yeah, so he's emphasizing the importance of being adaptable, flexible, avoiding rigid thinking.
Okay.
Think about water.
Yeah.
It can flow around obstacles. It adapts to any container. It can even carve through rock over time.
So in the context of power being formless means?
Being able to adjust your approach depending on the situation.
Right.
Not being stuck in one way of doing things.
Okay.
A great example of this is Mao Zedong's military strategies during the Chinese Civil War.
Okay.
He used what he called a jigsaw pattern of warfare, which was totally different from the traditional structured warfare of the time. He emphasized decentralized command mobility, surprise attacks.
So he was keeping his opponents off balance.
Exactly. They could never predict his next move.
Right.
This formlessness totally threw off his enemies,
Yeah.
who were used to fighting in a much more predictable way.
So it's kind of amazing how a concept from martial arts can apply to something like military strategy.
Absolutely.
But how does formlessness translate to our everyday lives?
Well, think about it. We're always told to make plans, stick to routines,
Right.
be consistent. But in a world that's changing so fast, being able to adapt, embrace uncertainty, and pivot when needed is incredibly valuable.
So instead of resisting change, we can kind of flow with it.
Like water.
Like water, exactly.
Yeah.
So we've explored a lot of Greene's laws so far.
We have.
What are your overall thoughts?
It's been eye-opening for sure.
Yeah.
Some of the laws are a little unsettling, but I think overall it gives us a really valuable perspective on how power works.
Yeah, and how it's played out throughout history.
Yeah, I mean, it's thought-provoking.
Yeah.
It challenges us to think differently about how power operates.
Mm-hmm.
And while some of the laws might seem manipulative,
Yeah.
it's important to remember Green's just presenting them as observations of human behavior throughout history.
So it's not necessarily like a how-to guide?
No, not at all.
It's more like...
It's like a guidebook to the darker side of human nature.
Right.
Showing us the tactics that have been used to gain and maintain power.
And by understanding these patterns, we can recognize when they're being used on us.
Exactly.
And protect ourselves.
It's all about awareness and self-defense.
Yeah. Can you give an example of how we can apply that awareness?
Sure. Let's revisit Law 3, conceal your intentions.
Okay.
So Green says keeping people guessing about your true motives can be really advantageous. He compares it to a poker game. You don't want to show your hand too early.
Right. The element of surprise.
Exactly. It gives you an edge.
Yeah.
By keeping your intentions hidden, you maintain control.
Okay.
And you can maneuver more effectively.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Are there any other laws that you think offer useful insights?
Yeah, totally. How about Law 10 infection? Avoid the unhappy and unlucky.
Oh.
It's a reminder that negativity and bad luck can be contagious.
Oh, yeah. I know exactly what you mean.
Right. We all know those people who are always surrounded by drama.
Yeah, or misfortune.
It's exhausting.
It can be.
And it can really drain your energy.
Yeah.
So this law reminds us to protect our own emotional well-being and be mindful of who we let into our circle.
It's like our energy is precious.
Yes.
We should be mindful of how we spend it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else stands out to you?
How about Law 18? Do not build fortresses to protect yourself. Isolation is dangerous.
Okay.
This one's really relevant today.
In what way?
Well, Green cautions against isolating yourself from others, especially when you're in a position of power. Right. He says building walls surrounding yourself with yes men can actually make you more vulnerable.
Why is that?
Because you lose touch with reality.
Right.
You create an echo chamber where you don't hear dissenting voices.
Yeah.
And that can lead to bad decisions and ultimately a loss of power.
Yeah.
It's important to stay connected, cultivate allies, and be aware of what's happening outside your bubble.
So it's about finding that balance.
Exactly.
Between protecting yourself and staying engaged.
Yes.
Okay. Speaking of projecting an image of power.
Yes.
There's another law that I think is worth talking about.
Okay, which one?
Law 34. Be royal in your own fashion. Act like a king to be treated like one.
I love that one.
Did this mean we should all wear crowns?
No, not exactly.
Okay.
But it emphasizes the importance of cultivating a certain presence, an air of confidence and authority that draws people to you.
So it's about embodying the qualities of leadership, even if you don't have the title.
Yes. It's about owning your power and your value, but not in an arrogant way. It's about carrying yourself with self-assuredness and grace.
Okay, that makes sense. Before we move on, I want to touch on one more law.
Okay.
I think it's super relevant today.
Yeah.
Law 40. Despise the free lunch.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Why is this one so important?
Well, it reminds us that there's no such thing as a truly free lunch.
Right.
Everything has a cost, whether it's a favor, a gift, and an offer.
So it's about being aware of hidden agendas.
Exactly.
And understanding that people rarely give something for nothing.
Right. You've got to be discerning, weigh the costs and benefits.
Yeah. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of an opportunity.
Totally.
And not think about the strings attached.
Absolutely. You know what?
Right.
I know we're almost done,
yeah.
But I have one more thing I want to share.
Okay, I'm all ears.
So remember how we talked about the sleeping dragon and his reputation for cunning? Well, there's another side to this.
Okay.
That Green explores in Law 37. Create compelling spectacles.
How does creating a spectacle relate to power?
Well, spectacles grab attention. They generate buzz.
Right.
They create an aura of power and influence.
So it's about crafting a public image.
Exactly.
That projects strength and authority.
Yes. And Green says that symbols are a powerful tool for this.
Okay.
Think about the visual language of power, crowns, thrones, military uniforms, even corporate logos.
Right.
They convey a message without words.
So it's about using symbolism to reinforce your power.
Exactly.
And this applies to our everyday lives too, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
The way we dress, the way we carry ourselves, even the language we use, it all contributes to the image we project.
So it's about being mindful of the messages we're sending.
Yes, both consciously and unconsciously.
That's powerful stuff.
It is.
I think we've given our listeners a lot to digest already.
Yeah, we have.
What are your final thoughts before we wrap up? Well, we've spent the last couple parts of this deep dive exploring Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power.
Yeah, a lot of information.
Yeah, and it's been fascinating to sort of unpack these strategies for gaining and maintaining power.
Mm-hmm.
But I got to say, I'm feeling a little conflicted.
Yeah, that's understandable.
Yeah.
Greene's book can definitely spark some internal debate.
Right.
We've been talking about some pretty potent strategies, and it's natural to wonder how they align with our own values.
Exactly. Some of the laws just seem
a little ruthless.
Yeah, a little ruthless, and I wouldn't want to use them to, like, manipulate or harm others.
Right, of course. I think it's important to remember that Greene's presenting these laws as observations of human behavior, not necessarily as rules to live by.
Right, so it's up to us to decide how we interpret them and apply them.
Exactly. It's about using this knowledge responsibly.
Right.
It's like learning about the laws of physics.
Okay.
You don't have to agree with gravity, but understanding how it works can help you navigate the world better.
Right. That's a good analogy.
Yeah.
So how do we balance the sometimes ruthless nature of power dynamics with our own ethical considerations?
Well, I think self-awareness is key.
Okay.
We need to really understand our motivations.
Right.
Why are we seeking power?
Yeah.
What do we hope to achieve with it?
Right.
And are we willing to compromise our values in the process?
Right. It's like that saying, with great power comes great responsibility.
Exactly.
We have a choice.
We do.
In how we use our influence.
For good or for bad. And
Right.
I think the real test is how we choose to wield that power.
Yeah.
Do we use it to lift others up or to tear them down? You know,
Yes.
do we use it to create a more just world?
Yeah.
Or just to further our own selfish ambitions?
Those are some tough questions.
They are.
And it's easy to lose sight of the bigger picture.
Yeah, when you get caught up in that pursuit of power,
Right.
it's so important to have that moral compass and that set of values to guide us.
So it's not just knowing the rules of the game.
Right, right.
But choosing to play it in a way that
Sure.
aligns with our principles.
And sometimes that means walking away from the game entirely if it requires you to compromise your integrity.
Absolutely. Well, as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power,
Yeah.
I want to leave you with this final thought.
Okay.
These laws offer valuable insights into the dynamics of power, but they're insights.
Yeah.
They're not a blueprint for becoming a master manipulator.
No, they're tools.
Right.
It's up to us to decide how to use them.
And to use them responsibly.
Yeah. And remember, sometimes the most effective use of power is knowing when not to use it at all.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this journey into the fascinating and often unsettling world of power dynamics.
It's been fun.
Yeah. We hope you found it insightful and thought-provoking.
Until next time.
Stay curious and stay empowered.